But you said something earlier, right? I think we can do the best that we can to prevent cyber attacks, ransomware, but the truth is you're not going to be able to plug every single hole. You're never going to be able to potentially protect yourself from the rogue employee or the guy who clicked on a phishing email and opened up your network or whatever. But I think it goes back to, how do you better understand the data that you have? Where is it stored? Who has access to it? Or even how well it's protected wherever it sits. You said earlier that it's really about knowing your data and everything else. Is that something you do on your own, or do you work with like your chief data officers, your chief privacy officers? Who do you work with to better understand the types of data, who should have access, and whether or not it should be protected and how?
Yeah, great question. One of the things that's kept me in security, I guess a quarter of a century now, is just the fact that this role really interacts with I mean, if you're doing it right? Like, I mean, there are people in CISO roles who are just buried in IT and mostly spending their time in data centers and with systems. But like the reality is like all of computer security is about people. Because if a system gets hacked and it's, who cares, right? Like, I mean, well, it depends, right? What's on that system? I mean, like, any computer, and I find it always interesting when people think like, I don't know, Macs are immune or your iOS devices can't be hacked. It's like anything that can run code can run malicious code. It's that simple. So there are no systems that are immune to this. Being able to really partner up with everyone in the business. I mean, like, from my perspective, and I've been in firms, like some really big firms where it's just like, there's a security incident, there's a server in question, and nobody knows what that server does or what's on it or who owns it or who's going to scream if we turn it off. That's not where you want to be in an incident, right? Like, you need to have that business context, and the only way you're going to get it is if you work with the business and really like start to understand like what they do, how they do it. I mean, I just came back actually from a physical tour of the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services just to understand how they operate, and it's a very locked down, high security environment. I mean, there's a lot of rules. There's a lot of like all this kind of, you don't have that context if you don't talk to them, right? Like if you don't go in person, meet the people, understand what they're doing, how they're doing it, what drives them, what makes them think, then, all you have is really just like, hey, server number 33 has a problem and it needs to be shut down and we don't know what's on it or whose permission we need, right? Like, I mean, a lot of times you'll end up with security people saying like, I think it should be shut down, and everybody else is a little nervous about that because they don't even know what the system does. You might be losing money every minute that the system is offline. If you don't have that context, good luck, because you really have to protect everything the same way then. And that's really not how a security program is going to succeed anymore. You can't protect everything from all attacks at all times across all platforms. It's just impossible. But if you don't know where your most critical stuff is, if you don't know where your most critical data lives, if you don't know like, who's first, second, third, if we had to restore from a disaster recovery kind of an event, you just miss out on all of that kind of stuff. And you have to, again, it's either you treat everything like, kind of superficially as just, kind of a base level of protection, or you have to protect everything to the nth degree, which is also the wrong answer. Both of those are the wrong answers. The right answer is really working with the business, understanding how they operate, what systems are the most critical, and in some cases force ranking too, like what's first, second, third. If we have an outage and there's systems that need to be brought up and you're working on the wrong things in the wrong order, you're just not doing the right thing. Now in a state government, that could be lives, right? Like, I mean, if the 911 network is down, that's a real problem. That needs to be brought up like really fast. You can't be working on the, a cafeteria menu system or something. I mean, it's like, you have to make sure you're doing things in the right order and really making the right moves. That's really, I think, the way that it needs to operate. Not everybody likes doing that for some reason, but I mean, I think partnering with chief data officers, chief privacy officers, legal counsel, HR, I mean, in some cases, physical security. I mean, if there's a security event that maybe leads to an employee termination, that's either HR or in some cases, physical security. So really, it's all about partnership, making sure that you know who people are, that they know who you are, making sure that the business knows how to report an incident. Believe it or not, I've been on tabletop exercises where it comes out that it's just like, well, yeah, we didn't really know how to report an incident. So it's like, running through those kind of exercises are great, because especially like with ransomware, I mean, you can run through a scenario that's a practice scenario with the right people around the table, and go through, like, if this attack happened, what do we do first, second, third? And it's not a real event, obviously, but I mean, things can come out from a process and people perspective that you would not identify any other way. Like, I cannot buy software that will scan for the fact that someone doesn't know how to report an incident. I can't do that. The only way I can do it is to talk to people.